Welcome back to In Frame Brooklyn. Charlie from Real Brooklyn Films here. And I thought this week what we could do is start talking about the different chapters in my book, Documentary Filmmaking 101, which is available for free as a download on this channel. There's a lot in the book, and there's a lot to unpack. So I thought what we would do is maybe we would take a chapter at a time, and I can go into more detail about what's, in those chapters. So I thought today, as a first, go at this, we can talk about doing your actual interviews. I think that's kind of important. And that's chapter 6 in the book. So stay tuned. Let's get into it. Okay, so you're making a documentary, and you know what your documentary is about. And only you know who you need to be in your documentary to tell your story. So you need to deep dive into those people, read whatever they've written, watch whatever video interviews they've done, if they've been in newspapers, if they've been in movies, anything that where you can find out what they've done, you got to suck it in. Because eventually when you send that email to say, hey, I want you to be in my movie, you have to know why you want them to be in your movie, and they will know whether you're bullshitting or not. So you're gonna write a really nice, positive email to these people and say, "Hey, I watched your this, I read your that, and I'm making this documentary, and I think you would be perfect for my movie, and this is why." If you can't do that, then they're gonna say no, or they're not even gonna respond. They need to be excited about your movie as much as you are. Every film I've made, I've sent out emails to academics, activists, people involved in that particular story, and all of them have gotten back to me with, "Wow, I'm so glad you're making this movie. How can I help? How can I be involved?" But that was because I was excited about the film when I wrote them the email. So you got to do this, and no form letters. You need to send an individual letter to each of these people so they understand, this is coming from you. People can tell when it's a form letter, especially if you forget to change the name on top. That's happened when I made my first documentary. You learn very quickly. So your initial reach out letter is so important to set up the next aspect of this pre-interview, what I call section, and that is the Google Zoom meeting. And what that is that after we email back and forth a little bit, we set up a time so that we can have a Google Meet or a Zoom Meet. Zoom you can record, Google you can't.
Wow!
So the recording is important, and I'll get to that in a second. So you set up a meeting, and now you get a face-to-face with your potential subject interviewee. And this gives you a chance to sort of sell yourself as a competent filmmaker. It should be light. It shouldn't be heavy. You shouldn't be asking them the documentary questions right now. You just be getting a feel of them, how they are on camera, if they're going to be nervous, if they're going to be really jovial, if they're going to be relaxed. Have this conversation. Then you can tell them, okay, so, you pretty much ask them, okay, will you be in the movie? And usually they'll say yes. Or like, oh, I thought I already said yes. So once you've got that yes, now you can talk about, well, these are the questions I'm thinking about asking. So they know that you know why you want them in the movie. And these don't have to be all the questions, because they'll be, obviously, there'll be follow-up questions during the interview. But have at least 5 or 6 questions ready to pose to them. They like to have the questions in advance, and after this, they may want you to send them an email with all the questions, and that gives them a chance to sort of do research or pull up reference material that they may want to show in the movie or things that they've written. They want to be prepared so they can give you the best possible answers to the questions that you're asking. So this is the time to sort of have that conversation, get comfortable with the information, and let them know that, you know, you're not going to make them look like an idiot. You really want to put them in the best light. So this is a very important conversation. And if you're on Zoom, you can ask them if you can record the conversation, because honestly, down the road, they might say something in this conversation that you forget to ask them later. You can go back and maybe pull it from here, or you can say, hey, you know what? I remember we talked about this and we forgot to get it. Can we do a follow-up? Generally, if you didn't screw up the interview, if you were nice and positive, most people will be like, yeah, come on back. We'll do a follow-up. It's very simple. Be positive, be respectful. And then the last part is availability. When are they available? I mean, you're talking about different people from different places, or we're all going to have different schedules. So don't even think about planning your shoot until you've locked down all of your interview people, what their availability is, what locations you might need to get. Air flights and hotels are non-refundable and non-changeable when you're working on a small budget. So don't do any of that until you have all or most of your interviews locked down for time and availability. Most people can make an hour for you, unless they're on vacation or they're going. I had one guy, a really amazing professor on Rising Tides, who I really wanted to get in the movie, and I had to get him in between his expedition to the Congo and then his expedition to the Amazonian rainforest. So I managed to squeeze him in. He was in Connecticut. I drove to Connecticut for like 3.5 hours, all the way out on the point, got his interview, drove home, and then he went to like the Amazon like the next day. So I had to do that well before I had other things in place, but I needed him. So that's what you do. Get your scheduling, get everybody lined up and locked in before you book hotels and rental cars and flights and stuff. Otherwise, you could be in trouble when somebody has to go, oh, no, I'm not available then. It happens. So that is the sort of pre-interview section. The next section is locations. Here we go. I almost said you'd be surprised. I'm not going to say it. You'd find it interesting how important the location you choose to shoot in is. To be serious, a bad location can ruin your film, because the things that happen in bad locations are bad sound, bad lighting, intrusions from people walking through your camera. I know it sounds silly, but you'd be I did it again. You'd find it interesting that what seemingly may be a perfect location turns out to not be a perfect location on the day. So there are things you need to look at, and we're going to go step by step for each of those locations. So firstly, when you're shooting an interview, you really need to be able to control your light and your sound. Those are the two things that are going to make or break the interview. Bad sound on an interview, well, you can throw it in the toilet. Bad lighting, well, you can fix little bad lighting, but if it's really bad, then you're going to be screwed also. So pick a location that you can control the sound and the lighting. Now, for me, I interview a lot of academics, activists, people like that, and generally, I interview them in their homes. Unless I'm in a place where I can actually set up an actual interview space, like on Rising Tides, when I worked with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, they let me use their Merrill building, which is this amazing, fully green building, and one of their conference rooms to do my interviews down there, which was great. I was able to set up the camera, lighting, and I was able to bang out 3 interviews there without having to move the camera too much, and I controlled the sound and the lighting, and it was great. But mostly, my interviews are conducted in people's living rooms, libraries, offices, because I can control the lighting and the sound. Also, you want to think about the background. I know it doesn't sound important, but when you're doing an interview like this, what's in the background can be distracting. It can be not just distracting, but ugly. Yes, it can be ugly. What I find the best, and I said this in the book, the best background for me, for my documentaries, is like a library, because books are an amazing background. They break up the picture because they're singular books. Most of them are not terribly bright looking, so you get this nice sort of full background without a distraction. So your eye's not being pulled to the books, but you've got something in the background. Also, most offices have decent lighting, so you may be able to control the lighting just by using like the lighting in the office, or like there's a nice window in the office. Seat somebody next to the window with a nice practical lamp to get some highlights. You can do that without bringing in like serious film lighting. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you just have to bring in film lighting and you don't have any choice. But when you're a run and gun one-man band, if you can get away with just using the light in the room and maybe a reflector, like shower curtain, the handy shower curtain, you're going to be much better off. Also, sound. Most offices, libraries have carpeting. They've got things on the walls, which is definitely going to cut down on echo and reflection. Reflection is a bounce off of glass and mirrors. Echo, obviously, is an empty room that doesn't have anything in it.
Hello? Is anyone there?
So the room you choose for lighting and sound is going to make a big difference. And when you talk to your subject and you decide, okay, we're going to do this in your office, or we're going to do this in your living room, or in your library, you can ask them, are there carpets? Are there paintings? Are there tapestries on the walls? And if there are, you're in business. And then you can ask them what kind of lighting there is. Is there overhead lighting? Is there desk lamps? And they'll know. They'll be able to tell you, well, this is what I have. Do you think this will work? And yes, all of those will work. Unfortunately, you may find yourself in a space that is like bare bones, nothing on the walls, or like big glass windows, which, by the way, would make beautiful light, but the sound will be awful. So there's a few things you can do to fix that in your location with regards to sound. Harbor Freight, as cheap as Harbor Freight is, they sell packing blankets for like $7 a piece. And packing blankets, or as we call sound blankets, are amazing. You can put them on the floor, you can hang them from light stands, and really, really cut down that bounce. And there are ways to do that. There are videos online that you can watch that show you how to fix your sound. All this stuff is out there, and there's some people who really know what they're talking about. And with regards to lighting, same thing. There are people out there who do these amazing videos on lighting. One person you should look to, who I also mentioned in the book, is a fellow filmmaker. She has a great video channel, and she does a lot of tutorials on lighting for video, lighting in general, what lights you should buy. She's great. You should definitely follow her. So taking all these things into account, the space that you choose as a one-man band anyway, I don't have a big crew. It will definitely decide, how your interview goes. And the other part of that, sort of the showing up, is that these people are taking like an hour or 2 hours out of their day for you to come and do this interview. Be respectful of their time. Don't show up and be like the crazy professor pulling things out of boxes, trying to figure out where things go. For me, I set the camera up in my hotel room, sound, camera, anything I need, and I bring that to the shoot. I strap it into a seatbelt in the back seat of the car. I get my tripod ready. Everything that I can do quickly, I get it all ready, so that when I get to the location, hi, how you doing? It's great. Where are we? Oh, we're shooting over here. That's great. Just give me like 5 minutes, and we'll get going. So go in, get the camera, get the tripod, put the camera on the sticks, look at the lighting. Then I have them sit in their spot where we're going to shoot them. Let them get comfortable in the spot and talk to them. How's your day? Oh, is that your dog barking in the background that I'm going to have to deal with later? That happened. So let them get comfortable. Make sure everything works. Turn the camera on. The worst thing that can happen is you roll camera and it doesn't turn on. So make sure the sound's working. Headphones. Always be monitoring your camera, because when that sound goes out and you don't know it and all you hear is and don't have sound, you're going to be sorry later. Headphones on every camera you're running should have headphones so you can check what's going on always, and always have one set on. So now go over, talk to your subject, sit down, Talk about, okay, this is. I don't know if you've ever done this before, but this is kind of how it's going to go. You're gonna, I'm gonna turn the camera on, and I'm gonna say action because I like to say action, and then you're gonna tell me who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into the interview. And they're gonna think it's funny I'm asking who you are, and blah, 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 'cause I already know who you are. But for us as filmmakers, we need that on camera as a tacit sort of saying, yes, I'm agreeing to be in your movie. Instead of having them sign anything. So then we'll ask the questions, and you just go ahead and and just talk. I'm not going to interrupt you, unless I've got a follow-up question or moving on to the next subject. And that sort of makes them feel at ease. So go ahead and do all that, and then the most important thing, and I'm going to get right up in your face here. The most important thing: shut up. Yes. The draw, the pull, to get involved in the conversation when they say, oh, this happened to me. Oh, that happened to my sister too, or my dog walker's friend or my uncle. Don't do it. Don't do it. You will be sorry. I promise you, you will be sorry. You'll be in the editing room and interviewing this amazing interview, editing this thing, and you're going to hear your stupid voice break up the interview. Don't do it. Refrain from talking. Yes, if you have another question, wait for them to finish, and really wait for them to finish. Don't, if they stop, don't cut off the next thing. Give them a second to say something else or look at you like, okay, I'm done. Don't do it. Keep your mouth shut. In Brooklynese, shut your trap. Don't talk. It's going to be hard because you're going to want to, interact and I got new ideas. Don't do it. I have a little field notes book that I keep with me, so I can actually, if I've got a question while they're doing it, I'll write down a question so that later I go back and I ask it again. Don't talk. Nobody wants to hear your voice. They want to hear what they have to say. So that's really, really important. So then the other thing is, and this is something that nobody tells you, is that interviews are great and they want to talk to you and they're giving you everything, but they're not giving you everything because they can't think of everything. So you do your interview, and when you think it's over, you're like, oh, that's great. That was amazing. And then they'll be like, oh, wait a minute, there's this other thing. And then they'll give you the good stuff. And then the good stuff starts rolling out. Another 10, 15 minutes worth of good stuff that they hadn't thought about originally. I promise you, that's the good stuff. After the interview ends, never turn off the camera. Leave that camera running until they literally leave the room. Because good stuff will come, I promise you. On every interview I've ever done, some of the best stuff that made it into the movie was the stuff that happened after I finished asking my questions. It happens. Any documentarian will tell you that's where the good stuff comes. So never turn off the camera or turn on the camera early, and never turn off the camera until they leave. And I promise you, you're going to look at that stuff and go, wow, I'm so glad I left the camera on. Also, you may come up with another question that you didn't even think of earlier that you can ask while the camera is on. So, record everything. That's why you want to record that first Google meeting, the Zoom meeting, because you never know what good stuff you're going to get just in that initial conversation. Okay, so you finished your interview. Now, before you let them leave, well, first thank them. Thank them for their time. Tell them how great it was. This is going to be so amazing in the movie. Thank you so much for being part of this. It's very important. This is why this project is so important to me. This is how they may ask you, how did what made you make this movie? What was the impetus? Have an answer. That's all I'm saying. Have an answer, because they're going to want to know. Then that could lead into a whole nother conversation. So you thank them. Then it's very, very important to say, you know what? When I make these movies, sometimes I got to go back, and as the movie progresses, I come up with other things that I want to ask. Is it okay to maybe do a follow-up, in a few weeks, once I've got, more of the movie put together? Normally they'll say absolutely, unless they're going to be out of the country, like my professor who had to go to the Congo. But for the most part, they will be really cool about you coming back to do a follow-up. As long as you're nice, as long as you're enthusiastic, professional, it'll be fine. In Brooklynese, if you're a jerk-off, if you're nasty, if you were late, if you made a mess in their house, which I'll get to in a second, you can forget about it. They can't wait for you to get out. Talking about making a mess in their house, under no circumstances do you ask to use their bathroom. I know it's funny. Don't use or even think about using their bathroom. It's just don't do it. Go before you get there. Hold it until you're done. Do not say, "Oh, by the way, can I use your John?" No, just no. It's unprofessional, and it crosses boundaries. I mean, who knows what they have in their bathroom that they don't want you to see, and they're going to be like, "No, sorry, you can't use my bathroom." Don't ask. Don't do it. Go before. And look, I'm 58 years old. I pee a lot. So, plan your restroom stops before and after. Don't ask them to use their bathroom. So I hope that was helpful. It's all in the book. I don't think I put the whole thing about the bathroom in the book, but that should be a given. But yeah, the book is available on this channel for free download. Please do. If you have questions, the videos are now open to comment. I didn't realize that they weren't before, so now they'll all be open to comment. If you have questions, you can email me. We'll get into the whole thing in a second because I can hardly ever remember it. But I hope the book is helpful. I think we're going to go backwards. I think the next section we'll do is the sort of production phase of getting everything together, talking about cameras and stuff, which is interesting because I'm about to go into development pre-production on 2 documentaries, which I can't exactly talk about in detail, but I can start talking about a little bit, and that'll be part of our production video, maybe next week or the week after. So anyway, Charlie from Filmmaking Films. I hope you enjoyed this video. Obviously, the new movie that's coming out is Rising Tides. It should be available on the YouTube documentary channel, and the website is www.risingtidesfilm.com, and obviously Real Brooklyn Films, www.realbrooklynfilms.net, Charlie Sprickler, Charlie RBFNYC @gmail.com. I remembered. All right. Well, as always, keep shooting.